knock came just after twilight. 3 cloaked strangers stood at Adana's gate. Their shadows stretched long across the earth, unmoving, unreadable. "We've come for the children," said the one with eyes like gold. But Adana stepped forward, shielding her twins. "No, not until you tell me who you are and why the stream led them to me." Adana arrived in Vedantia with nothing but a cloth bag, calloused feet, and a soul full of cracks the world could not see. The road behind her was long, but the silence ahead was deeper. Vedantia was not just a village, it was a breath, a song hummed by the trees, a place where time walked, barefoot and slow. The first morning, she stepped onto its red earth. The dew clung to her like memory. She closed her eyes, inhaled the scent of wet clay and firewood smoke, and whispered, "Let this be a beginning." But even new beginnings carry old scars. She was kind, quiet, her past unknown. The women eyed her behind woven baskets. "Too old," they said, "too quiet." Still, Adana rose with the sun, head wrapped in quiet dignity. She dug yam mounds with strangers who never learned her name, carried buckets heavier than their stairs, prayed in the fields, not for a child, but for a place to belong. Her hands blistered under the Vedantian sun, but her spirit did not. It bent, but never broke, and someone noticed. From the shadows of the chief's hut, Adebayo watched, not like a man watching a woman, but like a farmer watching rain gather over thirsty land. At first, it was a glance, then a greeting, then a question. "Do you always hum while you weed?" She hadn't realized she did. Their bond bloomed, not in fireworks, but in the hush between raindrops. They shared laughter over plantain peels. They lingered in the same corners of the farm, as if fate bent space for them. They knew each other without speaking, they knowing. One golden afternoon beneath the old mango tree, Adebayo stood beside her, dust on his hands, a glint of nervous hope in his eyes, and asked, "Will you walk beside me, even if the world says no?" Adana looked at him, and in that single look was every wound, every prayer, every dream she had dared to bury. "Yes," she said, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. The village danced. Drums echoed into the hills. The elders raised their cups to the sky, and for a moment, it seemed love had won. But joy has seasons, and as time folded into itself, the sun rose, set, rose again. The mangoes ripened, the rains came and went, but no child came. At first, the village waited with smiles stretched like dawn, soft, hopeful. Adebayo's fingers lingered in hers just a bit longer each day. The market women still offered her kola nuts with laughter tucked inside. Drums still beat joy into the hills. For a while, love shielded her like morning mist. But seasons always change. And warmth, if left unwatched, does not die with fury. It cools slowly, quietly, like embers forgotten in an old hearth. Soon, smiles faded into stiff nods. Nods gave way to glances, sharp, short, avoiding. Glances grew into whispers. Whispers wrapped themselves behind woven fans and judgment-heavy silences. This time, colder. This time, sharper. This time, aimed. "She's barren," they said. "Adebayo deserves a legacy. The ancestors are silent for a reason. He should have married Nkem. She already has 3. What kind of woman walks with the womb of drought?" The words weren't shouted. They floated like ash, settling on doorsteps, rising in cooking smoke, slipping between the walls of her heart. And Adana heard them all. They stopped inviting her to naming ceremonies. She was the only one whose doorstep never echoed with a child's cry. Even the drums at night, once full of rhythm and hope, seemed quieter when she passed. One morning, while hanging wet cloth on the line, she overheard 2 elder women beneath the baobab tree. "She works hard, but hard work doesn't plant lineage. A womb that sings no song is a house with no door." Adana froze. She didn't cry in front of them, not even when they looked her way with pity. Not cruelty, but something worse. She waited until dusk, when the sun bled into the earth and shadows gave her cover. Then she walked alone to the edge of the stream, the place where women whispered prayers into the water. She knelt, hands trembling, lips pressed shut, and for the first time since arriving in Vedantia, she wept. Not loudly, not for long, just enough to let the ache leave her bones. When she stood, she did not wipe her tears. She let them fall into the earth like offerings. "If it is not my time, let me still be enough," she whispered. She buried her sorrow like a seed beneath the soil of faith. And the next morning, when the whispers returned and the stares sharpened, she smiled and kept smiling. Because belief, when rooted deep, grows even in drought. It was an ordinary morning until it wasn't. Adebayo was in the fields, tilling yam mounds beneath a rising sun. The soil was warm, the air still. Then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong, a cry, faint, not animal, not wind, human, small. He froze, tilted his head. It came again, so soft it almost disappeared behind the rustle of leaves. He dropped his hoe and ran, through thick brush, past thorned bushes and fallen branches, his heartbeat rising with every step. The forest grew denser, mist curling around tree trunks like ancient breath. The closer he got, the more time seemed to slow, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. He reached the stream and stopped. He had only followed a scream, but what he found was destiny there, beneath the old Iroko tree. Where the stream split into 2 silver branches, lay 2 infants, wrapped in deep green and gold kente cloth, nestled among ferns, wide-eyed, calm, watching him. They weren't crying anymore. They were waiting. Adebayo's breath caught. His hands trembled. "No footprints," he whispered, scanning the ground. "No mother, no basket, nothing. Only the stream, humming gently, as if cradling them in song. Sent not by chance, but by the river itself. The waters remember." He fell to his knees. Something ancient stirred in his bones. He didn't think. He scooped them up gently, one in each arm. They didn't protest. One touched his beard. The other closed her eyes against his chest. "Adana!" he shouted into the wind. "Adana!" She came running, breathless, apron flapping like wings. "What is it? What happened?" Then she saw them, and time broke. The world fell silent. The stream quieted. Even the leaves stopped rustling. The moment her eyes met theirs, her knees weakened. "You found them," she whispered. Then softer, "Or they found us." She stepped forward slowly, as if waking in a dream, and touched the babies' foreheads. One smiled, the other gripped her finger. Her lips quivered. "I dreamed of this," she murmured. "Not like this, but this." They stood there, two villagers holding mystery in their arms, surrounded by ferns, river light, and the quiet pull of something bigger than them both. Something had shifted. A story, older than memory, had just reopened. The drum summoned the elders that evening. The children were bathed, wrapped anew, and laid before the council. "No one reported missing twins," the chief said. "No travelers have passed through in weeks." An old woman whispered, "This dream, it remembers. It does not give without purpose." Debate broke out. Were they gifts or omens, offerings or warnings? No one knew. But then Adana rose, her voice clear, not loud, but undeniable. "Perhaps they were not abandoned, Shiwa," she said. "Perhaps they were entrusted, and I will raise them because I already love them." Silence, then murmurs. Some clapped, others scoffed. But in her compound, the cries became giggles. The silence gave way to lullabies, and the fire Adebayo lit that night warmed more than the air. The twins, Tomiwa and Tari, had found a home. It began in whispers, not warnings. Tari, once so full of laughter, began waking in the middle of the night, eyes wide, chest heaving, whispering strange words that weren't his own. She's calling from the river, silver bangles, golden voice." Adana would hold him tightly, smoothing his hair while he trembled, the sweat clinging to his skin like a second soul. Tomiwa too began changing, not in fear, but in frequency. She'd hum in her sleep, a haunting, beautiful melody no one had taught her, the exact rhythm Adana had once whispered into the water long ago, on the night she thought she would never be a mother. "That song was mine," Adana whispered, heart racing. "How does she know it?" And then came the eclipse. The day began like any other. Light dancing through banana leaves, chickens clucking in the distance. But as the sun climbed high, a strange hush fell across Verdantia. Birds stopped singing. The goats froze mid-chew. Even the stream seemed to hold its breath. And then, darkness. The sun dimmed to a pale eye. Shadows stretched unnaturally. The sky shifted into a twilight neither of day nor night. The stream began to churn, without wind, without warning. Water splashed in irregular bursts as if something beneath it had awoken. Then Adana saw it. Symbols, glowing faintly on the smooth river stones. They pulsed with golden light, circling the spot where the twins were once found. Compelled by something older than language, Adana stepped forward. She knelt beside the stream, reached out with trembling fingers, and touched one of the symbols. The moment her skin met the stone, everything shifted. Visions poured into her. A woman, robes torn, running through a moonlit forest, 2 infants in her arms. A circle of cloaked figures chanting under an eclipsed sky. A seal, a betrayal, a curse laced into the blood of 2 innocents. She gasped and fell backward, eyes wide, chest heaving. "They weren't just left here," she whispered. "They were hidden." The stream quieted, but The shadows had already begun to move. That night, the air hung heavy with electricity. Even the trees seemed to watch. Then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate raps against the wooden gate. Not rushed, not afraid, just inevitable. Adana froze mid-braid. Adebayo rose silently and opened the gate. 3 cloaked figures. They carried no weapons, no bags, just presence, as if they had stepped from another realm entirely. The tallest stepped forward, his voice echoing as if shaped by wind and stone. "We have come for the children. They are not what you think." Adana stepped between them and the twins, her arms spread wide. "No, not until I know who you are and what you mean by that." A pause. Then the tall one lowered his hood. An elder, skin-lined like riverbeds, eyes glowing faintly gold. A shimmering symbol pulsed on the staff he held, a match to the ones on the stream. They are descendants of the Eri Omi, guardians of the waters of time. Born not to live quietly, but to hold back a storm once banished beyond the veil. Another figure stepped forward and unhooded. A woman, silver bangles, braids woven with golden cord. Adana gasped. The woman from Tari's dream, from her own vision. The woman knelt before the twins. Her voice, soft, melodic, laced with ancient sadness. Their parents were the last protectors of the Watari altar. Betrayed during a celestial alignment, they sealed their gifts into the children and placed them in the sacred stream, hoping fate would lead them to a soul pure enough to raise them. She looked up directly into Adana's eyes. That soul was yours. "But why now?" Adebayo demanded, his voice low but trembling. "Why not before? Why wait until they belong to us?" The third stranger stepped forward. His cloak was frayed, his voice hoarse as if scraped across fire and ash, because the one who betrayed the guardians returns with the next eclipse. He was once called brother. Now he is known as Obale, the shadow whisperer. His hunger for power nearly shattered the realms, and now he comes to finish what he began. Adana clutched the twins tighter. "No," she said. "They are not weapons. They are my children." The woman with silver bangles nodded slowly. "And that is exactly why they survived. Because love, real love, was always the last gate. They chose you, Adana, even before we knew." Just then, Tomiwa looked up at her mother, eyes glowing faintly like the stream. "Mama," she whispered, "the water is calling again." That night, the strangers lit a sacred fire beneath the stars. The flames burned blue and gold. Smoke curled upward, twisting into forms, guardians, altars, betrayals. To awaken their gift, the elder said, one final seal must break, and it lies not in magic, but in sacrifice. Adana's breath hitched. "What kind of sacrifice?" "One only a mother can give," the woman replied. A heavy silence settled between them. Adana looked at the twins, at Adebayo, at the fire that now seemed to flicker with fate itself. Then she stood tall. "Then tell me how, because I will walk through fire before I let darkness take them." What is the sacrifice Adana must make? Will Obale return before they're ready? And what lies hidden in the stream's final secret? Keep watching as the story unfolds. The moment Adana says, "Then tell me how, because I will walk through fire before I let darkness take them," the flames of the sacred fire suddenly spiral upward into a blue vortex. the golden-eyed elder speaks. To awaken their power, you must give what no guardian can hold onto, your bond, your claim. You must die, not in body, but in memory. The words hung in the air like a curse whispered by the wind. Silence fell. Adebayo's breath caught. The fire crackled once, then stilled. Even the night seemed to hold its breath, but the elder wasn't finished. The final blow was still to come. Everyone freezes. You will live, you will breathe. But to unlock the twins' full potential, you must erase your existence from their hearts. They will awaken as protectors, but they will no longer know your face. Adebayo stares in horror. They will forget her, their own mother. The silver-bangled woman nods with pain in her voice. Only the pain of parting can shatter the seal. You will remember them forever, but to them, you will become a stranger. Tears stream down Adana's cheeks as the twins play, laughing by the firelight. She walks toward them, kneels, and whispers, "My babies, I love you more than the memory of love itself." She looks at Adebayo. Take care of them, and when they ask why they feel someone missing, tell them the waters remember. Then she steps into the fire. It does not burn. It consumes only her presence. She vanishes. The fire dims. The twins pause. Tomiwa suddenly quiet. Tari tilting his head. "Papa, who was that woman?" Adebayo falls to his knees, trembling. Adana awakens, gasping, eyes wide with confusion and awe. She is floating above an endless river of stars, trees suspended in the air like echoes of another world. The wind hums with whispers. She clutches her chest. Her body is whole, but something is missing. Adana whispers, "Tomiwa, Tari." A ripple of blue energy pulses beneath her feet. She lands softly on a bridge of woven light, suspended between nothingness and memory. A voice calls out, disembodied and eternal. Suddenly, from the mist, emerges a cloaked figure, the woman of feathers, her robe made of shimmering obsidian plumage, her eyes like still water. You have crossed the echoing veil, where memory walks, but time kneels, the realm between what was and what may still become. You are not dead, but you are no longer remembered. Adana, choking, "They have forgotten me?" Yes, they may forget your name, but not your essence. It clings to them like morning dew, and they will need you, because the shadow rises once more. A tremor splits the silence. Thunder rolls across the stars. Dark smoke coils in the sky. Something ancient has awakened. The shadow whisperer, Obale, has awakened. The cloaked guardians remain behind, training Tomiwa and Tari in the sacred grove. Tomiwa begins to manipulate water with her voice. Tari learns to slow time within a circle of carved stones. Why do I feel hollow sometimes, like someone is missing from my dreams? The guardian elder replied, "It is the price of protection, but even the deepest secrets cannot stay hidden forever." Lightning splits the crimson sky. Obale rises from the wasting wastes. muscles woven from shadow, voice forged in forgotten screams. He steps into the corrupted altar, where water flows backward and whispers curses into the wind. Here, in silence and sulfur, power returns to the banished one. The wind curls, the ground breathes, the altar hums with memory. From the shadows, ash-cloaked creatures rise, silent, waiting. Obale, the guardian sealed me in silence. But water remembers, and so does vengeance. The twins have awakened, but the seal is not yet broken. When the second eclipse comes, we strike. And so he rose, not in flesh, but in vengeance. And across the stream, the mist moved, not with sound, but with memory twisted into storm. Adana climbs a staircase that has no end, guided only by voices and dreams. She reaches a high chamber where 3 matrons wait, beings of fire, wind, and spirit. They speak in one voice. To protect those you love, you must first lose what defines you. Will you face the trial of 3 waters? Adana closes her eyes and nods. Trial 1. The river of regret. The waters swirl, then shimmer. She sees herself on the night she gave up the twins. Their laughter echoes. Adebayo's voice trembles in memory. Her own hand lets go. She watches. She does not run. She does not scream, but her body trembles, fists clenched as silent tears pool at her lashes, then disappear before they fall. Trial 2. The stream of truth. Another ripple. She now sees her children, giggling beside another woman, calling her mama in their dreams. Their joy cuts deeper than sorrow. Adana gasps, but stays rooted. A mother's heart is breaking, but her spirit refuses to shatter. Trial 3. The tide of becoming. The stream darkens. It demands a final offering, the last joy she still holds. Adana reaches for her neck and removes the pendant, her mother's necklace, the last piece of who she was before this journey began. She places it in the water. It sinks like a memory, quiet and final. Silence. Then light bursts upward. From the depths rises a guardian's staff, glowing with sacred energy, its shaft braided with the essence of who she's become. Mother, protector, storm. The air trembles. The sacred waters behind them shimmer with a light not of this world. The matrons step forward, their voices one, yet many. Adana, you are no longer merely a mother. From this day, you are guardian of the living water. A sudden rush of wind sweeps around her, carrying whispers of rivers, ancient and unseen. The pendant at her neck pulses once with light, as though the stream itself has spoken. The second eclipse darkens the skies. Obale arrives in a storm of fire and mist. The village shakes. Guardians rally, but shadows pour from the earth. The twins stand alone. Suddenly, a streak of golden lightning. The mist parts. Adana steps through. She wears the full armor of a guardian, her staff glowing, her eyes like the stream itself. In the midst of the mist and lightning, Tomiwa speaks, softly, barely a breath. Mama? Adana nods. Adana, I returned not to be remembered, but to fight for what remembers me. The stream rises, taking the form of a serpent. Time slows. Obale screams as Adana approaches. Water collides with fire. Tomiwa and Tari fight beside her, using their gifts with confidence. Adana strikes the final blow, using not magic, but memory. Adana, shouting, "Love never vanishes. It waits. It returns." Obale is sealed inside the stream. The eclipse breaks. Light returns. The village is saved. The guardians bow. Adebayo rushes forward. The twins collapse into Adana's arms. Legends are not born in power, but in sacrifice. And sometimes the greatest love is the one that lets go and still returns. Thank you for watching. This is African Tales by Nina. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories.